EarthMC nations. I have thoughts on a lot of them, most of them being bad because I've been at war with about 100% of them. So today I thought it would be a fun idea to do a tournament of the top 64 nations on EarthMC, population-wise. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Holy crap. I just wanted to go in the wild for a little bit, and then Cynthia started killing me. That was scary as crap. Oh my gosh. Okay, I can't do the buried chest thing this time because Cynthia will kill me, but it's buried right there on that block. Anyways, before this video starts, make sure you do subscribe. We're getting really close to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm still trying to get there before summer, so I think we could do it right now, and if you do enjoy these videos, please do subscribe. Okay, I'm editing this video, but I remember this one guy paid me 20 gold to say subscribe to Beaverman, so yeah, thank you. Alright, so here we are with the brackets. We're going to be just starting right at the start here, so we have our 64 teams right here. And let's just start with the first matchup. So we have Nubia versus Russian America. So Nubia, the number 1 seed, versus the 64 seed Russian America. So Nubia is Africa's powerhouse. I mean, it's the biggest nation population-wise. They've just done a lot to make their nation great. I mean, there's just not much of a way to beat Nubia. Russian America is a nice little nation in Canada near Alaska, and it's right in the mountains over there in British Columbia. And it's a nice looking nation, but I mean, it's not a powerhouse like Nubia is. It's just, they're just not going to be able to beat Nubia, so it's an easy win for Nubia here. The second matchup, the 32 and 33 seed Madagascar versus Victoria Island. So Victoria Islands is another just up there. I mean, it's a normal nation. There's not much really about it, and I don't know that much about it, so it's not going to be able to beat Madagascar here, which is another powerhouse of Africa. It's the trading capital of the world. It's a really nice looking nation, one of my favorite nations looks-wise, period. Madagascar is going to take an easy win here. Going into the third matchup, we have 16 seed Germany versus 49 seed Ohio. So Germany has gone through a bit of ups and downs lately with the change of ownerships and towns leaving and rejoining. It's been pretty messed up, and it goes against Ohio, owned by one of my good friends, and a fast-growing nation. I mean, it's in the USA, it's very close to home nation to me, and even though I like Germany and Ohio, I think Ohio's going to take home this victory with the 49 seed winning against the 16 seed. That's our first upset. Next up, we have Louisiana versus Empire State. Louisiana is one of my least favorite nations. So Louisiana, owned by Zodiac Flesh as of a few days ago, I think, before he got banned. He was the one who was in my last video, the mod situation, one of my recent videos where I talked about him abusing his mod powers against my city. I hate Louisiana. And then you go up against Empire State, owned by one of my friends, another YouTuber on EarthMC, Cobb Lobster. There's just not much beating it. Empire State is going to go a long way. They've got an easy win, another upset here. Illinois versus Moroccan Kingdom. So you have Illinois here, probably my least favorite nation on EarthMC. They have done nothing but bad to me. Versus Moroccan Kingdom, a nation that I have never heard of in my life. Okay, I looked into it a little bit. I didn't really figure out that much, but I figured out that Moroccan Kingdom is going to beat Illinois by enough. It's a pretty easy win for me. I'm not letting Illinois get past that first round. Now, Finland versus Sweden. I've checked out Sweden a few times, and I haven't really checked out Finland, and from what I've seen, I really like Sweden. Sweden's a nice little place that I enjoy. Sweden's gonna win this matchup. Alright, I did a few matchups here. I had Australia beat the Russian Empire. I had Cascadia beat Nubia. And I had Brazil beat Terra Mariana. I had ancient Egypt lose to Zapotec, or whatever it's called. I'm not 100% sure. And then I had Severny beat Indochina. So moving on, we've got Francia versus CSA. I don't know where Francia is, I'm gonna be honest here. And I hate CSA with a burning passion to the point where I want CSA to win. I'm going to give CSA the win here purely just because of how much I despise them. Next up, we got Persia and Peru. Persia is a nice little nation. I mean, they've done a lot to grow, but Peru up in the Andes Mountains, that's a nice looking nation. Peru going to take the upset here, a big upset. 60 upsets the 5, and the 5 seed is out. That's the biggest seed out so far, I think. Next up, we've got Seljuk Empire versus Iowa. I don't know Seljuk Empire, and Iowa is run by one of my good friends, Irad, so they're going to take home the victory here. It's also a nice-looking nation. The way they made that Capitol building is really beautiful. Cuba versus Ontario here. Cuba, really big nation. Hate them. Ontario, or I used to run this nation, actually, and so it has a place in my heart. They're going to beat Cuba here. California versus East Galicia. California, easy win. those towns up there in California, they're just beautiful looking. San Francisco, run by Greed Eagle, that's a really, really nice city. East Galicia, I don't know much about them. They're not going to beat them. Spain versus Northern Russia. Spain, the number 2 seed, that they're not going to lose. Spain's a nice looking nation. They've got the win here over Northern Russia, just another nation from Russia. Miami versus Yukon. Miami's a nice looking nation, but I really like Yukon up in the mountains. So this really comes down to, yeah, Yukon's location is good, but this one, even though it's a hard matchup for me, I think Miami takes this one. Oceania versus Guinea. I don't really know either of these nations. I guess I'm going to have to give it to Oceania because I think I went there to mine a couple times. Neither of these nations are going to get that far, though. France versus Jefferson. This is an interesting one. I really like how France looks. It's one of my favorite looking nations versus Jefferson. Another really unique nation. It's nice looking. It's got this Wild West feel. I don't want to let Jefferson lose, but I'm going to have to do it because of how much I like France. Quebec versus Far. I don't know where Far is. I hate Quebec. I don't know who to choose here, but I guess it's going to have to be Far. I'm going to have to look into them a little bit, and I'll get back to you in a bit. But what? I've never heard of Far in my life, and I hate Quebec. Chia versus Argentina, I think. There's not much to say here. Argentina takes this. Argentina is my favorite looking nation on EarthMC, period. And I haven't heard. I mean, it's just another Asian country, isn't it? I mean, I've seen it a few times, but I've never been there. I just really know of it. Argentina takes this easily. Austria versus Godthab. Austria definitely is going to take this one. Austria is a nice looking nation. I've been there a couple times. Spqr versus Wyoming. Spqr, you're a good nation. Wyoming, you're a very nice looking nation in a nice looking spot. I want to give it to Wyoming. I really do. But there's just no beating Spqr. The way they've stayed as one of the biggest nations for so long, you gotta respect that. Spqr takes the win here. Klondike versus Slave Lake. It's Klondike. Jester, the owner of Slave Lake, he sucks. Klondike takes this one home for sure. Klondike's the one owned by Scrabs, I think, and I really like Scrabs. He's cool. Japan versus Minnesota. This is a really hard matchup. I really like Minnesota. They're one of... I used to be in it for a while. I'm going to have to give it to Minnesota, but I don't want to. Japan's a really nice nation, but I'm going to be giving it to Minnesota here. Baffin beats Cordoba really quick. I don't know much about those nations. Britain versus Pueblo. Britain, they've been a pretty cool nation for a while, and then they declared war on us. I hate their guts, but Pueblo also declared war on them. I also hate their guts. I hate both of these teams. If I could go 0-0, I would. Fine, I guess I'll give it to Britain because it looks nicer. British Columbia beats Peru, Bolivia. British Columbia is a really cool nation, and it looks very, very nice with Seattle. Israel versus New York. Israel's kind of cool. I don't know much about them. I know that there are a lot of PvPers, but they lose to New York here. They're good friends in New York. I like New York. New York's got the win here. Italia versus Wrangell. Wrangell is up in Alaska, I would assume, just because of the name. I've never really heard of it. Italia, it's got to win. It's got the Vatican there, and that's one of, if not the best looking, cathedral type thing. They did a lot to make the Vatican City look really good. And props to Italia for that one. So on to the second round here. We've got 32 teams remaining. Now things are about to get interesting. Nubia versus Madagascar. Battle of Africa. Which nation do I like more? Well, Nubia, you're not going to be able to beat Madagascar here. Madagascar has always had a special place in my heart. It's the most iconic nation on EarthMC, I'd say. They got to take the win here. Ohio versus Empire State. This is a hard one. I don't want to kick Ohio out. They're one of my good friends again. But Empire State has got to take the dub here. Moroccan Kingdom versus Sweden. Sweden will take the win here. Australia versus Cascadia. Australia, I think, is the best nation in Australia, but I don't know if they're better than Cascadia. This is a really, really hard choice, and in the end, I'm going to have to go with Cascadia because it's nice looking, but Australia, I wish I could give it to. I almost gave it to Australia. Brazil is going to take this matchup pretty easily. Severny versus CSA. Again, I don't really know that much about Severny, and CSA. Props to you for being so bad. Peru versus Iowa. I'm going to have Iowa win this, I think. Ontario versus California. Yeah, you're not beating California here. I like Ontario. They're pretty cool, but, California is just beautiful. Spain versus Miami. Now, Miami is not going to go any farther. Spain's going to take the win here. Again, a very nice-looking nation. I mean, they're one of the best in Europe, I'd say. Oceania versus France. Now, Oceania, again, I don't know much about them. They only won first round because they played someone that I don't know even more. France is going to take the win here for sure. Far versus Argentina. I mean, this is not a question. Who knows where Far is? I don't. Argentina, very nice looking nation. They take the win here. Austria versus Caesarea. This is a difficult one. I like both of these nations a lot, but I think it's going to have to be Caesarea. Spqr versus Klondike. Spqr is going to win this one. Klondike, Cascadia. I don't really like Cascadia that much as a nation politically, and I don't know that much about Klondike, even though I like Scrabs a lot. I'm going to have Spqr win this one. Minnesota versus Baffin. Baffin just got through the first round. They're not going to be able to make it through the second round. Minnesota's going to win this matchup. Britain versus British Columbia. These are two very nice looking nations build-wise, but Britain is not going to win British Columbia when it comes to builds. British Columbia is a very, very pretty nation. Seattle, the capital, is just beautiful. New York versus Italia. I really liked Italia, I did, but they're not going to be able to beat New York. New York, a very nice looking nation, and a lot of people that I like there. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There are not many nations that made it through that aren't, like, just the best. I like all of the nations that are still here, basically, except for CSA. I hate them so much, and that's the only reason they're here. Madagascar versus Empire State. Madagascar, another very iconic nation, versus Empire State. It's basically people versus places. Which do I value more? And I value people more. Cobb Lobster moving on for another round here. Sweden versus Cascadia. Two nations that I don't know how they made it to the third round. Cascadia, I guess, is going to win again purely on looks of their nation, just because they look a little bit nicer than Sweden. Brazil versus CSA here. Now, CSA only made it through because they were playing nations that I didn't really care about, so their awfulness made them go to the third round, but they're going up against Brazil, a nation that I actually like. They're gone. Iowa versus California, two very nice nations, but again, California's road system, California's building. Iowa isn't going to win here. Spain versus France, the battle of Europe here, and when it comes down to it, I think France wins this one. Spain's nice looking, but I don't think they're as good looking as France, if I'm honest. France has got a lot of really good landmarks, and they're very nice. Argentina versus Caesarea. This is, I don't know. I really don't. This is probably the hardest one yet. It's really, sure, Caesarea's got the people, but Argentina just looks so nice, and Argentina's beautiful. Spqr versus Minnesota here. Who do I have winning this one? I mean, Spqr is a powerhouse nation versus Minnesota, a nation that's very special to me. I used to live there. It's got the win here. It does. British Columbia versus New York. Two amazing looking nations on the other side of the continent from each other. Oh, I need to think about this one for a bit. British Columbia outdoes New York in looks, but I think when it comes down to it, people is going to win this one for New York. New York's going to move on. So finally, we're to the Elite 8 here, round 4. Empire State versus Cascadia. Cascadia has had a really easy tournament so far, and they're not going to make it to the final 4. Empire State's going to have an easy win here against Cascadia. Brazil versus California. Man, I'm going to knock out Brazil here. California's going to take the win. Again, everything about California is just beautiful. You go there. I can make a whole video out of California if it were to get views. I'm sorry, Brazil. I don't want to kick you out, but you're up against California. There's not much you can do. France versus Argentina. Where both of these are two nations that I don't really know that well besides how they look, so I'm just going to go off of that, and Argentina wins. Argentina is just beautiful. Their road system and everything, every single town looks nice. Argentina wins. Minnesota versus New York, battle of some USA nations, and Minnesota's finally going to get knocked out by New York. New York, it just looks so much nicer. It doesn't really matter who's the actual better nation when it comes to overallness. New York just looks nicer. Into the final 4, we've got Empire State, California, Argentina, and New York. Empire State seems to be the odd man out in which that they aren't like the most beautiful nation on EarthMC. And they face California, one of, if not the most beautiful nation on EarthMC. And when it comes down to it, I wish I could make Empire State win, but up against California. California's got the win here. So California moves on to the finale here against the winner of the matchup down here. Argentina versus New York. Two so beautiful nations. I gotta think about this for a bit. Alright, when it comes down to it, Argentina, you're gonna lose here. New York moving on to the finale. So in the finale, California versus New York. How did they get here? Well, California started against East Galicia, easy win there. Ontario, easy win. Iowa, a bit harder of a win. A nation that I like a lot. I don't know. That was difficult for me to choose. And then Brazil, oh man, they just barely inched that one out. I really like Brazil. Then they go up against Empire State, same thing, just barely win that one, and they're in the championship. New York started up against Israel. They almost lost for first round. Then they went up against Italia. They had an easy win. They went up against British Columbia. They almost lost this one. That was really close. British Columbia probably looked a bit better. It all really came down to who has the nicer people, and that's how New York won. Going up against Minnesota, two nations that I really like a lot. Both of them are in the USA. New York won that one pretty easily, I think. Then they went up against Argentina. It came to the point where Argentina kind of had an easy schedule, and then they went up against New York, and they got beat. So, who is my favorite nation out of the top 64 nations on EarthMC? Well, it's just going to have to come down to looks. California, you're going to be the winner of my tournament. You're my favorite nation out of the top 64 nations on EarthMC. Maybe if we did, added another 64, California might lose, but when it comes down to it, California, you're going to win the championship. Anyways, guys, thank you all very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe. Thank you all very much for watching. Cascadia, I hope you enjoyed it. Toothbrush.